Hi, I'm Milla, and welcome to this end of the year review tier list video. Well, it's the end of another long year in the world of video games. And instead of going through all these awards, I figured it'd be better to make a little tier list video, in part because I got to December and I was like, oh shit, I haven't played enough games yet. So this is going to be more casual, laid back, chilled. Might be a long while, so maybe go get a cup of coffee and sit down and relax a bit and hear me talk about video games. The way this list is structured is I have all the releases I've played this year that came out this year first, and then after that are other titles that I've played this year, like classics or retro stuff. I'll also be including replays as well, so if you can already see, there's Norn 9 and P4G are down in the row at the bottom, and yeah, there's going to be some nice surprises. There'll be mostly RPGs and visual novels, but there's a few other stuff too. So that said, let's get into it. This list is as complete as I can make it. There's a few I haven't put on here, like Black Wolf Saga's not on here because I only did like a couple of routes before my Vita got corrupted. So that's on the backlog still, and but if that was here, that'd probably be quite high, but I want to finish it first. And there's probably a couple of others I'm forgetting. Tried to prompt myself, but you know, yeah, I need to stop rambling now. So, starting with Baten Kaitos 1 HD Remaster. Now, I did a video for this on the channel. I'll leave links to all the videos, well, pop-ups and that. But this is for the first game, and I love this game. This game was really good. I think, like, as I mentioned in the video, it was like a hidden gem that people just may even know of, but have not played, and now it's on Switch. It's like, got no excuse not to play it. This is like classic Monolith Soft history right here. It's so unique. The card battle mechanics are really cool. The world building is fantastic. The way that players are immersed into it as a third player, a third like core pillar of the cast on top of Kellis and Zelda is just amazing. I'm gonna give it a B, I think, maybe an A. I think I'll do a B actually. Next one is the Chaos Head Noah Committee of Zero patch. So this is the fan patch for Chaos Head Noah that came out in February this year, not the official release. The official release is this little thing called Rushed Excrement. Unlike Anonymous Code, from what I've heard, that's been fantastic, even though that's now got a patch to fix a few lingering things, but compared to Chaos Head Noah is an absolute masterpiece in literary works. So this one is fantastic for its atmosphere. The horror is really like a lot. Like the characters are good, and it's overall it's a good visual novel. It just grossed me out a bit too much. Like this game is truly horrifying, and what the patch does is the patch restores it to the original release of the game, so on 360 and PS3 before Mages censored the game down to ensure it got a D. So it incorporates all of that as well. So it's quite a gritty, dark adventure. A bit too much for me, so I couldn't do the true route, which I wanted to do. But I might try again someday, but probably not. But it's a good game. If this game wasn't a success, science adventure wouldn't be a thing. So I'm going to put that as a B. And I want to try to go back to it someday, but don't bet on it. Trilogy 3 HD now. This is the game that I reviewed for the channel, my first major success video, so thank you so much. And it turned out this was fun. Like, this game is classic Atlas, classic Etrian. I'm so glad that the Etrian games are on modern systems now, and this franchise has a huge future ahead of it. There is going to be the next mainline Etrian. I'm going to guess that's probably going to be 2025 after ReFantazio and everything else, unless it drops in the summer. But Asset 23, as I mentioned in my video, is like the most unique game of the core series, especially if you exclude the Untold stuff. So many cool ideas, so much innovation. The boat mechanic was cool, the guild cards and that were all introduced here. And I love the atmosphere and the music as well. I'm going to put that as an A actually, because it's just great. And even if you don't like dungeon crawlers, I recommend listening to the soundtrack for this one. It's a banger. Fire Emblem Engage now. This is, well, the 35th anniversary Fire Emblem game. Was it 35th? Well, no, 30th, but it'll be 35 soon. It was delayed till this year because of delays caused by the still ongoing panoramic. Reminder to mask up, by the way. This game is... The gameplay is like the closest you can get to SRPG perfection. Pretty much everything was great and amazing. The story, I know a lot of people hate on this one because of the story, which I think is partly because a lot of people who played this one jumped straight from Three Houses, which, while I haven't played Three Houses, I do know that the story and the arc that game takes is different from any other game in the series, and I think people's expectations were kind of skewed in that regard, especially because Engage's story at its core is closer to your typical Fire Emblem game than Three Houses was. So that was the expectation I had going in, and while I think the story could have definitely been better, it's nowhere near as bad as people say it is. And it's well choreographed, the music is fantastic, there's a soundtrack coming out in Japan for that in March, which is fun. I want that, but I don't know if I will actually get it, because again, it's soundtrack, they're just going to sit on the shelf. But that didn't stop me from having the Xenoblade soundtrack, which, yeah, I'm going to be coming to Xenoblade later. This one is going to be a... if the story was a masterpiece, or better than what it is, it would definitely be S, so I'm going to put it in A, because everything else is just that good. GrimGrimoire once more. Now, I forgot I even played this until I saw my Switch year in review, because I only played it for about 5 or so hours, and the gameplay got really overwhelming for me. Contrary to what it looks like, it's not really a strategy RPG or a hack and slash side-scroller like most of Vanillaware's other stuff. This is a tower defense game, and there's just way too much on the screen for me to really process with this one. It's just a lot, and it's... I got overwhelmed and just couldn't progress with it because I just could not work out what the hell I was meant to be doing. And even when the game tries to help, it's just really cumbersome in its execution, and I don't like this one, to be honest. I respect what it tried to do, and I know there's a couple of like really good things about it too. Like the art and music are great, it's typical for Vanillaware. This game, the fact it got remade at all after being forgotten on the PS2 is good as well, and NIS did actually localise it, so I'm going to put it as, I don't want to say it's trash because there are good things about it, but I just could not go any further with this one. So I'm going to put it as a C. Jeanne now. This was my most anticipated Atelier game release as of this year, and this game is a fantastic, but it has a critical flaw that stopped me from doing more than one route, and that is the gameplay loop. Now, Jeanne is a massive game. This game has a huge long con route and stat raising mechanics, and what you're meant to do is you're meant to just keep getting close to one guy, but going back and doing it again because there's no way to skip it. Like, the critical gameplay flaw is that the characters are amazing, the music's amazing, the performances are amazing, rhythm game is amazing, everything is amazing except the gameplay loop. And the gameplay loop is like, if you dare to do it once, that's fine, but doing it again on successive routes is just, I played the game, but then when I stopped playing, I was so exhausted and tired, I needed to play another game to mentally recharge from playing Jeanne, which, if your game does that, you've fucked up somewhere. And a lot of people, like, oh, you should just take a long break before doing each route, and like, no. If your game requires you to do a long break to get around fatigue of playing a route, then your game is fucked. Your game needs to be fixed, and Jeanne is a great game, but it needs to be fixed. As in, get rid of this loop so that, well, you can skip the songs, like you have to perform the songs again, which doesn't help, but some kind of way to just completely skip it entirely and just go straight on to the final semester, because there's 5 semesters in the game, and the 5th one is the character route, and that's how long the route is. So some option to completely skip to that, where you lock onto the character route and get all performances in the songs, like, that would have made the game so much better. And after 40 hours of me playing through one route, like, that was incredible and an amazing experience, but I just can't do it again, and I will one of these days watch the endings online unless this gets fixed, because it's great, and I'm so glad that Broccoli have started localizing their games over here, because I suspect we're going to get, in 2024, Uchronia will get announced. That's the newest Otome game from Broccoli and Lycobits, which has the same artist as Pia4A, which is another popular Switch Otome game. And also, this is a wilder shot, but I think we'll get Utar Pri. Like, Utar Pri is their bread and butter. And bear in mind that Shining Live has now shut down. The service is now ending for that. That's also coming to Switch. That would be the perfect time, not only to re-release that, but also do the base game. So, I like this game. It's got a critical flaw, so I'll never finish it unless it's fixed, but I'm going to put it in a B because if you can handle the flawed gameplay loop, I wholeheartedly recommend this one. Or if you just want something that's not by Idea Factory, because we all know Idea Factory love releasing stuff. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. This is for waves 4 to 6, so only the content released in 2024. And on its own merits, this game is great. I think the compared to the first few waves, it's much better. The track selection is much more diverse than, well, not just diverse in terms of like variety and natural settings, but the quality overall is much better. There's a lot less variety in the track quality. The actual tracks are great. Like Nintendo basically like, yeah, let's do in tracks 4, 5, whatever we should have done in waves 1 and 2. Other thing, I'm going to put it as a B because it's great, but also I'm so glad Mario Kart 8 is over. Like, Mario Kart 8 is a great game, but it sold so well on the Switch that we didn't get Mario Kart 9, instead we got this. So I really hope that for the next Mario Kart on the Switch's successor, which will probably be revealed next year, if not released like next year, but I still think there's a chance it could be 2025, that we get something else instead. Like something like truly, like, we get a new mainline Mario Kart that's nothing to do with this. Another plus for this wave is the fact that almost all the tour tracks are preserved in this DLC. There's only one Piranha Plant Pipeline which hasn't been added, but that's probably going to come in Mario Kart 9, which I think is a really cool idea to hold one back. So then on to the next one. Norn 9 Var Commons. This is a replay. Norn 9 is fantastic. I love this game a lot. Did have another video on this one, so that's going to go to the I'm going to put it in probably A. Now Last Hero did come out early this year. I haven't played it yet, but I want to. And I know it completes the story in terms of like not just the usual fan disc stuff, but building on the world that was started here. So maybe that might change once I've played it, but for now it's there, and also video. Persona 4 Golden! Now, this is going to S, this is a masterpiece. I did a video on this one as well. This game is fun, characters are great, everything else is great. The Switch version, as well as the other console releases for the modern day, is the best way to play it. And there's also a physical release from Nintendo Games coming, even though Atlus and Sega should have done that themselves. But at least it's better than nothing. Silent Hope. This was not what I was expecting. When I played this one, I got this more recently, and this game, I thought it'd be like Harvestella, in the sense that it'd have a farming sim mechanic where you actually farm and grow your crops, but then have an RPG portion. And the RPG portion would be only part of the game, but no, this is just a roguelike, which is fine. Like, I knew it'd be a roguelike. I thought a roguelike farming sim mechanic would be really cool to see how they mix together, especially given that it works so well for Harvestella. So I was a little disappointed to find it was all a roguelike, and the farming sim is just, oh, you just collect things from the labyrinth and then you give them to your fellow party member and they just, yeah, let's just pass time. You go exploring again and I'll just be magically growing milk and eggs, and you will not be actually farming it yourself. So was it in the marketing? Maybe. This is one of those games where I didn't want to go in knowing much, but outside of that, the actual mechanics are solid. I do think this is a good game. I'm not sure it's my kind of thing though, and I'm a little disappointed in that regard. But it's definitely a hidden gem, and I will recommend it in the future. And I'll also keep trying to play it more, because this game does have a lot to explore. And as mentioned here, it's a theme, so it's a great game. SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake. This is one of the few Western games on the list. Like, I always try to play a mixture of non-Japanese games as well as Japanese ones, because you can get some great games from other developers. And Cosmic Shake is the kind of game you would not get from a Japanese developer. This is basically the sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom after 20 years. And it's a good game. I think this is fun. Bear in mind it is aimed at a younger audience, but there's so much like references littered throughout this game that even if you've only like watched the first few seasons as a young kid, and then you come back to this one after like 15 plus years, you will find a lot of references. There's a lot to love with this one. It's great. The one thing that kind of held it back for me is that it's just too short. Like, it's a 5.5 hour game, which is just a bit too short. But it kind of reflects in the price. And I'm going to put it as a B. One thing I will say is if you do get this game and you have any other platform that's not the Switch, get it on there, because there is a slight graphical downgrade with the Switch version. But overall, I do think this one's great and I highly recommend it, especially if you are a fan of SpongeBob, licensed PS2 platformers, and other similar things. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Wow, this is going to be a fun one. This was the 2D Mario that the franchise needed. So if you know anything about the Mario series, we got the new Super Mario Bros. Series starting in the mid-2000s until the early 2010s, which is a good series. If they got kind of stale though, whereas Wonder was like, nah, let's just completely mix things up, make Mario an elephant, Wonder flowers, and just mix it all up. It's like, you just play it and there's just these huge bursts of magic that you play, and it's just like, easily one of the best games Nintendo has put out in recent years. One of the best on Switch, and I definitely would recommend this one above U Deluxe, even though U Deluxe is still one I highly recommend as well, just after you played this one. And I think of this particular one, and some people have compared it up there with Mario World and Mario Bros. 3, which I think should go to tell you just how much people love this game. And I'm going to give it an A, because this one is genuinely one of the best and most innovative titles, and if 2023 does turn out to be the Switch's last year of life of full third-party and full first-party support, Mario Bros. Wonder is a great way to cap it off. Virche Evermore now. This is I just did a video on this. It's my best Atelier game for 2023, so I'm going to put it up there in A. It's great, very despair-inducing, but also very good, and I do recommend it. White Album, Memories Like Falling Snow is up next. This is the localization of the PC port of the 2009 PS3 remake of the 1998 Ac Plus classic title. This game is basically what built White Album 2, which I think you know how I feel about that game. But this game is where it all began. It's good. I think the actual romance portions are really good. I think that's really cool. The characters are great, the art and music are great. Music as well, which is not surprising for a company literally founded by composers. The one thing that I recommend with this one, you need to play it with a guide, because it does have daisy mechanics, and although these were considerably more simplified from the 1998 original, they're still a bit cumbersome, and it can be a bit aimless running what the hell you're doing, so play this with a guide. I played it with a guide, and I did enjoy it. I think this is probably going to be a B, although I imagine if I didn't play with a guide, it would be a bit lower, because it can be a bit cumbersome to play. But I'm an Ac Plus fan. Of course I'm going to play this game. Probably my only big major Steam release that I played this year. It was brand new, although it was not my only Steam game. And yeah, it was great. And I do recommend that. Get it on sale. I will say one thing is that there is a graphical glitch that I talked about in my review video for that's still not been fixed, and is probably not going to be fixed at this point. So, in the event it comes to consoles in the future, which I do expect will happen in the next few years, get it on there, especially if you have Intel graphics cards, which is where a lot of the errors come from. It's just a pain. Just get it on consoles if you can when it turns up, but if you can't, PC is always a good option, and you can play it on the Steam Deck as well, just not officially compatible. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. This one is the DLC for Xenoblade 3, which was my last game that I finished, and I think in terms of new releases might actually be my game of the year. And the reason why is because this is a game that really got me to appreciate the subtleties of Xenoblade storytelling. Like, it's one thing when you're playing games for the first time, but it's quite another when you're playing them and you're seeing all these plot twists, and then you go back after the game's done while you process everything, and you're like, shit, this was deeper than I thought! And that's basically what Future Redeemed was. I think it was probably more obvious in terms of like a certain section towards the end, which if you've played it, you'll know exactly what I mean. And there's the fact that you get the development for characters like Matthew and A, and also some other characters, both old and new. So this is going to the S tier. Needs a physical release. I still think it will happen, but probably not till next year. Especially unless Nintendo decide to re-release the game and the DLC as a bundle in Japan, which is also plausible. I know to do that, they'll need to reprogram the game so that certain assets from a certain cutscene actually load from the cart rather than from Xenoblade Chronicles 3's base file. So hopefully that does turn up at some point, especially as the Noah and Mia and Amiibo still aren't out yet. So, you know, definitely fun, and it's making me want to go back and replay the other games at some point, which will happen. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which I put under Z just for variety's sake. Yeah, this game. I know some people will go like, oh, it's the S tier, Milla, you must put it in S tier, it's a masterpiece. Yeah, is it a masterpiece? Not for me. It's a good game. Like, it is fantastic. It's really fun seeing the open world Zelda formula and seeing the influences of the aforementioned Monolith Soft, which is always nice to see referenced in more titles. This game is going to be... I'm going to put it in B, actually. Like, it's a good game. I think, like... I'm just not super big into Zelda, and I think if I was, it probably would be closer to an S tier, but it's definitely a fantastic game, and I do recommend it. And here I am using good and fantastic as synonyms when... Well, they're definitely not bad. It's not a bad game, and it's got so many cool ideas. The whole, like, crafting items together, and the master hand, that's just really cool. Next, I'm going to touch on backlog stuff, so I'm going to mainly start with RPGs, and then move on to other genre stuff. So, I'm going to start with East 9 Monstrum Nox. This is ahead of trying to catch up on Falcon, which I said I was going to do trail stuff this year to catch up on that, and that was a bit of a fail because I didn't play anything. But I have to now, next year. I've got no choice now to catch up before I just decide not to bother anymore because the trail series is just taking this, like... Please take a break from these games, Falcon. And make more stuff like East 9, which is very different from the rest of the series. As a one-off title, I think it's a great way to kind of make the series darker, put some interesting ideas, sacrifice breadth for depth, which is basically East 9 in a nutshell, and it's fantastic. The characters you meet in this kingdom are really cool, and all the references to other East games as well. Like, there are actually references to other East titles because it is chronologically the most recent in the series. East 10 is actually chronologically one of the earliest, so that even might be referenced at some point in East 10 when that comes west, which will probably be next year. So I'm going to put this in... It's not my favourite East game, I think that goes to 8, but this one is great, and I love the fact that it has this alternative take. I'm going to put it in an A, actually. Atelier Dusk Trilogy. Now, this is one I've not talked about at all on the channel yet, and the reason why is because it was only recently done. Like, I got the Dusk Trilogy physical release, which is expensive as hell, by the way. So, I finished this trilogy recently, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to start with Ayesha, which is the first game. This is the one, if you play this trilogy, you play first. This one is closest to the Arlen trilogy in terms of like time limits and the faster pace and the more stressful design. So this is going to be a B, because I'm not super fan of that, but I'm kind of glad I played this, as the Dusk Trilogy is when you really start to see Atelier evolve from Arland to the modern style that you see in the Mysterious Trilogy and then later the Riser Trilogy. And Escha and Logy, the next one here, is probably one of, if not a potential all-time favourite, and the reason why is the characters. You go into this, there's something really like homely and warm about going to the village of Colset, and you just spend the time as Escha and Logy, become part of this like real tight-knit community, and there's something really cool about that, like, that's, and then there's the music as well, and the whole mystery of like, are you going to go to the ruins in the sky, and that was just so fun. And I also like about it, which is really unique for this game and the whole series, is Logi's a guide protagonist, and depending on the perspective you play as, you could actually turn it into an Atelier game, or you can romance Logy as Escha, or vice versa, and that really helped the game stand out to me. Like, it is kind of an Atelier game as well, which is really cool, so I'm going to keep that as S as I put there. And as for Shallie, I'm going to be an A for this one, because I feel like the gameplay is the best, and it's really cool how it ties up the rest of the trilogy together, but I'm not the biggest fan of probably like the scenery in the area. Like, it's more of a desert based RPG, which I'm just not super big on, but it's understandable why. And the cast is good as well. I think I just prefer Escha and Logy to the Shallies, even though they're both good. All the characters are good. I just kind of prefer Escha and Logy, especially when in this game it's more like, oh, we have to actually fix shit now. The town is going to struggle with its water supply. All the areas are struggling with their water supply. It's just a bit more serious and a bit less, bit more. It's just kind of, I think, kind of the more slightly more serious nature is just kind of takes away from it a little bit. Harvestella now. I talked about this in my video from last year, and the reason why is because I hadn't fully finished it. I think I mentioned in that video that I hadn't finished it, but I still put it on there because it was just so good, and like I got like 40 hours in at like chapter, I forgot what chapter, but it was like quite deep into the game, and I went back and finished it this year, and I'll talk about it again because this is my tier list, and if you don't like it, make your own list. And secondly, because not only did I finish it, but like going through everything and doing all the rest of the side quests at 60 hours, and like it's so good. It is so fucking good, and S tier for that. And it's just, I just love the fact that it's so much more than it looks like on the surface, and it really evolves into this epic story, and it really goes places, and it's fantastic. Like, if you haven't played it, check it out. Like, at the moment, physically, it's going for like 20 quid. So it's cheap, but it's going to become pricey in the future, as this is a cult classic in the making. Even for the first anniversary of the game, the illustrator and Square Enix started dropping facts and concept art. I really hope they make a full art book and a soundtrack, because the soundtrack's also amazing. I use it in my videos sometimes, like, Go Sheena is great. Another badass soundtrack and game is Chrono Trigger. This is a classic RPG. I don't need to explain what this game is. If you know Chrono Trigger or video games, even if you hate RPGs, you've probably played Chrono Trigger and you probably like it as well. So I'm going to put Chrono Trigger into S as well, because this game is also fantastic. Like, check it out if you haven't already. There is no modern release of it yet, available on modern platforms. I've played the DS remake, which I got ages ago, and it was sealed until this year. Like, I know, collector's sin, unsealing a rare game. I think it's great. Check it out, and hope it comes and gets a remaster at the very least. Maybe not a full HD 2D remake, but hopefully it gets a re-release, but it is on Steam if you want to play it on there. Two Dragon Quest spin-offs now, Terry's Wonderland 3D and Theatrhythm Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest Monsters, Terry's Wonderland was my first Dragon Quest Monsters game after several years of trying the Joker games, not being too big on those. And while I like this one, I like the characters, I think it's great to have a prequel to Dragon Quest 6. I think it's like, you can tell it's the first game, you can tell there's some dated design mechanics, like the dungeons are randomly generated, and I'm glad that they've moved away from this, so I'm going to put this as a C. Theatrhythm is going to be a B, because this is a rhythm game that, it came out in 2015, so before XI, and no spin-off music, so it is fantastic. I believe it will get a re-release eventually, especially now Sugiyama has passed away, so he personally can't block licensing anymore. Well, whoever runs his company can, but that's not really something that's in the public domain, so I'll leave it there. And also, now there's more stuff. Now Dragon Quest is bigger in the West. Square Enix actually have faith in the franchise here again for the first time in donkey's years. It's really good, so I recommend this one. You don't need to know Japanese to play this one. Oh, and with Terry's Wonderland, this has a fan translation patch, so check that out as well if you want to play that. One of the first to get patched actually for across the whole of the 3DS library. A Short Hike. This is a cute indie game, 3-4 hours long. It's really cool. It's really relaxing to play with this as well. You're like a penguin on an island, and you got to find the sights in that and solve the quests. It is really cool. I'm going to put this as a B. It's great. It's quite cheap as well. The physical copy for that is really expensive, so just get it digital. It's like 3-4 quid as well. Cuphead. This is fun as well. This game is also really hard. A bit too hard for me, to be honest. I did still enjoy it though. What I did play of it, I didn't finish it, and I might go back to it, I might not, but it's Cuphead. It's still a good game. And if you're into challenging platformers, it's going to be a B. Check it out. Now to a VN now, a boys love visual novel. This is something that you don't really get outside of PC, because a lot of them tend to be just pornographic, and these companies, they don't even offer all ages releases, so I'm less interested in playing a lot of them. Nitro Plus are one of the exceptions. Sweet Paul did actually get a PS Vita port in Japan back in 2017, which understandably never came west. So this particular title is very dark, it's very lucid, lots of like really weird dreams, and really, it's very bizarre in a good way, and the characters are really cool as well. Very dark. It's also quite short, so compared to all the VNs I've played that are full price titles, this is the shortest one I think I can think of right now. I recommend this one. Is it a masterpiece? Some people consider it one. I don't, but I think it's a very interesting game, and it's also quite cheap on Steam in sales, so I recommend getting this one. I'm going to put it as a probably a B actually. There's got a couple more left to wrap up. Aquaparza, which is the Aqua Plus fighting game. I played a bit of this earlier this year actually, because I have it, and it was actually the 10th anniversary of Aquaparza's Western localization on PS3 this year. And seeing as Aqua Plus didn't announce a 10th anniversary re-release or remaster of some sort, which, to be fair, given the current state of Ixamu, the developer, or Team Arcana, that would be difficult to do anyway, so I figured I'd check it out. And it's a pretty competent fighting game. I think it's interesting to play as an Aqua Plus fan in 2023, because all the newer stuff like Mask of Deception, Mask of Truth, and White Album 2, as well as all the other recent stuff, they're not in there because this game was made before that. So I'm going to put it as a C, mainly because I'm not super big into fighting games, but the actual idea of the mechanics are really cool, but there does need to be a re-release, if only to add an extra accessibility to make it easier to play. And for the fun of it, the Mario movie as my last one. I'm going to rank that as well. It is a movie, so I'm going to compare it more on its own terms compared to anything else. And I'm going to put it into a, I loved it, so I think I'll put it as an A tier, because the Mario movie is an adaptation by a Western studio of a world-renowned Japanese IP classic. And in that regard, it succeeds tremendously. It is the Hollywoodification of Mario, and it works. And we're going to get a sequel. It's kind of inevitable that there's going to be a sequel, because money, the sweet little money, they're going to want to make more money! And to be fair, if it's as good as Mario 1 or even better, then it'll be money well spent. So yeah, that's all the stuff on the tier list. Editing Milla quickly chiming in to add that I forgot to put Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna the Golden Country onto the tier list, which I'm just going to put straight into the A tier, because I love the characters and the little story. It's a great standalone experience, especially if you want to try out a Monolith Soft game for the first time. This is a great place to start if you're intimidated by the longer length of the other games in the Xeno series. So, yep, solid A, definitely check this one out. Now back to the rest of the video. In terms of more things for next year and overall thoughts on 2023, in terms of the games themselves, it's been an amazing year, not just for me, but for games I haven't played as well. I do want to acknowledge, before moving on to talking a bit more about other games, that if you were developing games, especially in the West, it really wasn't a good year. All the layoffs and all the shit going on with like Activision, the Insomniac hack as well, which, even though some of the information that was leaked is quite valuable from an industry understanding, the wider industry, it's bad because people's information was leaked out, and that stuff's not okay. It's really awful to actually be developing games right now, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that. Like, you can say, oh, the games themselves are great, while being like, yeah, but people who make them are being treated like shit, and that's not okay. Like, both of those are acceptable to talk about, and we need to talk about them. So that's my acknowledgement for now. Like, one of these days I'll touch on all the gaming stuff a bit more in a video. But for now, I've been at this for 30 minutes, I don't want to go too deep into that. In terms of actual games I've not played this year that I want to get around to, the main ones are Falcom games, like the Trail stuff. I haven't played any of them yet. I do want to though. Naruto in particular is a standalone title, so I don't have to play anything else before jumping into that. Although if there's recent announcements or anything to go by on Falcom's side, it might very well be connected soon. There's also Baldur's Gate 3, which is very rare for me to want to play a Western developed RPG, especially in this current year. So the fact that Larian have managed to make such a monumental achievement has piqued my interest, so I look forward to playing that. Other VNs I wanted to play, Tokyo Necro. I did actually play that for a couple of hours, but that game actually uses 3D graphics for some of its battle portions, so I want to go back to it when I've got the means to play it, so that's another one. Otome games, there's a few, like Radiant Tail, that's a big one I haven't got around to. Last year as well, I want to play that next year. There's just a lot that came out. And Butterfly's Poison as well, even though technically that was late 2022, but PC, it can still come out. And of course, the Dungeon Travelers games. I want to try Dungeon Travelers 2 too, but that's, at the time of this video, still exclusive to Duran, so it's de facto exclusive to Japan in the English-speaking world, so not viable. Speaking of more channel plans, as well as more retrospectives, I'm working on another like 1 hour monster already, so if you like the Grandlands video or the long video essays discussing game history, you're getting more of those. I will absolutely be making more of those. and I'm hoping to continue growing the channel, so soon I can just focus exclusively on the longer form videos without having to worry about making shorter videos, like, or less quicker videos like this one to make. So thank you to everyone who has checked out the channel this year, has engaged with the content, has offered comments, feedback, etc. Thank you so much. I wouldn't be here without all that love and support, so thank you so much. Please like, comment, subscribe, algorithm boosting stuff, everything else, etc. Consider becoming a YouTube channel member, and all those other things. Even just boosting and sharing the video help around so much. And also, if you're watching this before the end of 2023 and fancy subscribing, I'd love to get to 900 subscribers before the New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day and happy holidays. Bye bye.